I think we're live, Jason.
All right.
Can everybody see us? I hope so. Um, how's everybody doing? I am Christian with River Pools, and this, of course, is Jason Hughes, one of the owners of the company. The other two, Jim Spees and Marcus Sheridan, both have done a lot to grow River Pools, and we're excited to be here in the first of a series of webinars that really pass on all the knowledge we've gained over the years, all the things we've learned to others, just to better the industry.
Yeah, I mean, we're excited to be able to share, like Christian said, what we've learned. We're also excited to be able to learn collectively from everybody. We're excited about what's happening in our industry right now, and think that the more we can do to help each other, the more that everybody's just going to win.
Yeah. So let's jump into, let's get the PowerPoint going and get this presentation started. We want to use the Q&A pane. So you should see somewhere in your screen the option to click into Q&A. That's where you ask your questions, and periodically we will stop and pause and try to catch up with those and get those questions answered. But don't feel shy. Ask away. Get these questions answered.
Yeah, we're excited to talk about tanning ledges today. We know that if you're part of the industry right now, you understand the buzz that's going on with tanning ledges. They're certainly a hot item with all types of pools. So we're excited to talk about a little bit about installation and some other aspects of that today as well.
Is it coming up on your screen there, Jason?
No.
You need to join the meeting? Oh, you need the meeting ID. All right. Play for start. All right. All right. So here we go. This is what we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about fiberglass pools in the industry, and then certainly tanning ledges. We are going to talk about, hold on, guys. I had this straight a minute ago when we tested this whole thing, and everything was working. Fiberglass pool ledges compared to vinyl and gunite. And then, of course, challenges and solutions for installing those tanning ledges. We are going to go over how to properly install bubblers and lights, but more so about light placement within a fiberglass pool with a tanning ledge. And then we've got a new Facebook group that we are launching very soon called the Fiberglass Pool Builder Group by River Pools. And so really what we want to accomplish through this webinar or through the Facebook group is to continue passing on the information to build out a community of builders and share skill and knowledge and help troubleshoot and really take the industry to the next level.
Yeah, and I think just to be able to provide some resources that we didn't have, right? When we started in the early 2000s, we just went out there and trial by fire. And it doesn't have to be that way today.
Yeah. Well, let's start at the top and let's talk about fiberglass pools in the industry. Jason, this is a set of data that we recently got from PK Data, comparing the three different types of pools: gunite, vinyl liner, and fiberglass. And what we have seen over the years is that since 2008 up to about now, gunite pools and vinyl liner pools have slowly begun to lose their market share, all the while fiberglass is ticking upward, almost doubling, in fact, more than doubling its market share just a few years ago. So fiberglass pools are certainly becoming more popular with homeowners, and their features that are offered these days certainly make them more appealing. Of course, part of that are the tanning ledges, and that's why we're talking about them. I'm going to show a few photos of jobs that we've done over the past year and a half with some tanning ledges. But Jason, if you could share some thoughts, other reasons why you believe fiberglass pools has seen this increase in market share.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is an exciting time to be in our segment of the market. To see this type of growth, and there's actually reasons that this is happening. I mean, there's real benefits to both the consumer and to the builder. that fiberglass pools bring. I mean, specifically, we do have a lower maintenance pool. We do have a pool that's more durable, a pool that we don't have to dump money into. You know, as time goes on, there's no liner to replace, right? Don't have to worry about replastering. We don't have to worry about acid washing. So it offers a lot of solutions, quick installation time. The surface of the pool is user friendly. There's some real benefits here. And I think these are some of the reasons for the growth. And just let me just back up for a second, just give a shout out to PK Data. They provided those stats for the Fiberglass Pool Manufacturers Council. And I was very kind of them to do that. And it just really demonstrates again why, all this growth that we're seeing.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's jump right in. Let's compare fiberglass pools, or the tanning ledges in fiberglass pools. Compare those to those of vinyl liner and gunite. And I'm gonna let Jason kind of run this one.
Look, this is something that we hadn't really considered until we started putting this webinar together. And if you think about it, there's some real advantages to a fiberglass pool with an integrated tanning ledge. We know in the industry we're seeing a growth of more high-end vinyl pools, which is amazing. They're beautiful, but we have a shelf on a fiberglass pool that's structurally sound. We don't have to worry about damaging the surface. It is smooth to the touch. And with a vinyl pool with a tanning ledge, we do have a thin layer of vinyl that's covering that shelf. And if you're a dog owner, if you want to have furniture on that shelf, as most everybody does, then to have a ledge lounger kind of scooting around on that surface for a few years, it's not what you want with a vinyl liner pool. And certainly the animal pet aspect is important too with claws. So are vinyl pools available with beautiful tanning ledges? Absolutely, but there's some restrictions and limitations that the consumer needs to be aware of there.
Yeah, and so one of the things that those going with a vinyl liner pool with a tanning ledge really need to be aware of, well, even without a tanning ledge, the liner needs to be replaced, whether it's 7 years, whether it's 12 years, whether it's just the perfect vinyl liner situation that goes beyond that. But at some point that liner needs to be replaced. And those with a tanning ledge, the cost is going to be quite a bit higher than just a normal pool liner.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking to some builders yesterday that were huge vinyl guys, and they've really converted over to fiberglass, and they're doing really well right now. But that, they were saying the days of the, $4,000 liner replacement, they're done. A liner pool with a ledge, you're going to be looking at $6K plus to replace that liner. And I love the Jetsons, right? Was that the Jetsons?
It could be the Jetsons.
It's got to be the Jetsons. Love that growing up. But another thing with the liner ledges, we understand that it is a thicker material on that ledge, but still, it just is not going to be able to hold up to the scuffing furniture and the dogs.
And then of course that's the homeowner side, right? That's the expense to them. But on the builder side of things, the vinyl liner margins seem to be compressing.
Yeah, they are. They're shrinking. I mean, look, they know they've got a product that's selling. It's in demand. They have raised their prices. And now we are, when we talk about building these vinyl pools, then it does take longer. And so margins are shrinking from the builder side for sure.
Yeah. And then of course, compared to concrete pools, I managed a commercial pool for several years earlier in my career. And of course, all commercial pools are gunite. But man, at the start of summer camp, we would give out hundreds and hundreds of Band-Aids for bloody toes. And so, a gunite pool sometimes is the right choice for a homeowner, but that rough surface is not necessarily desirable for a lot of folks.
Well, I mean, think about it. When we swim in a pool, how much of our body is exposed to the surface of that pool? I mean, we might only be, maybe 80% of our body is really uncovered. So, the experience that we have with us actually touching that surface is really important. And then you consider like a tanning shelf, and it's almost exponentially more so, because think of all the tender knees and feet and toes that are constantly on that ledge, jumping off, scooting back on. It's just, it certainly is a more abrasive surface, and you can do things to make plaster a little smoother, but not really that smooth. Not when you compare it to a nice gel coat finish on a fiberglass pool.
Yeah. Tender knees, tender toes. Thought you were going to get into a song there for a second. All right. So let's talk about challenges and solutions with installing fiberglass pools with tanning ledges, because there's It's not as simple as dig the hole, set the pool. Pools or fiberglass pools that come with tanning ledges built in also have gravity built into them.
Absolutely.
Right out of the factory. And so there's a natural sag to them. So if they're not installed properly, some of the things you could experience right out of the gate or down the road once the job is complete is that ledge sagging again. So if it's not supported properly and that ledge begins to sag over time, the water line is going to change. And that's probably one of the biggest pet peeves a homeowner would have with a pool. It's the telling tale that the pool is not level. And then, of course, if the structure itself fails due to sagging, that's not good either. The other thing is that, the homeowner will invest tens of thousands of dollars into a pool, regardless of the type. But so you step onto a fiberglass pool tanning ledge, and that was not properly installed, and there's a void underneath, and it sounds hollow. That plants an element of doubt in the homeowner's mind, and it doesn't leave them feeling very comfortable or very confident in the product that they've purchased, that they've really invested in.
No doubt they're not going to be delighted, and right, and that's the goal, customer delight.
Right. And then, of course, they can be time consuming. They can be a bit of a challenge to get installed and eat up time in the field.
Yeah, I mean, when we first started doing this, we were going in and basically, hand packing everything, with stone, and yeah, that took a lot of time for sure.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's the potential for waste in material.
Yeah, you don't have to use tons and tons and tons of material underneath these ledges.
Yeah. So over the years, we've taken all of our experiences at river pools, all of our successes, all of our failures around installing fiberglass pools, and we wanted to kind of shape our own best practices for installation. We found ourselves going back to job sites to make repairs time and time again, things like sagging plumbing, leaks at the return fittings, things like that, groundwater management. This is a whole slew of things, to include problems with tanning ledges. And you guys probably, or you may or may not have heard of our Rhino Rock construction methodology. And what we've done is rebranded that just simply to be the River Pools Way, advanced fiberglass pool installation. We found that customers were calling and saying, hey, is this going to be installed the River Pools Way? Or we'd have folks even out of our service area call and inquire about it. So we've rebranded this, and we're going to walk you guys through the tanning ledge aspect of the River Pools Way advanced fiberglass pool installation. So first, obviously, we're gonna excavate the hole. We're gonna get the area set, but we're not gonna cut out all of the earth. We're actually gonna leave earth in place under the tanning ledge and cut that as close as we can as possible. And of course, we want to leave a stone base underneath that.
Yeah, and I would say too that how much soil you remove is really going to depend on the soil condition. I know there's areas around the country that have highly expansive soils, and you would need to remove a lot of soil beneath that ledge just to prevent that from the ledge from heaving. But if you're not dealing with that type of soil condition, it's not really necessary. So in this case, the image we're looking at, this pool is going to sit out of the ground, roughly about 8 inches. So we've overdug by roughly, 8 to 12 inches beneath the bottom of the ledge.
Yeah. Of course, you're going to set the pool in place, position, level it in the hole, begin to backfill with stone.
Yep. Just like normal.
And then during the fill process, you're going to fill up to, about 12 inches in the shallow end. And the idea is to set weight onto that shallow end. We don't want this tanning ledge to move. We don't want the pool to shift or move during this next step when we begin to level the tanning ledge. Remember, at this point, the tanning ledge itself is still wanting to kind of fall down. We haven't supported it just yet.
And there's an important point too when leveling these, that you can kind of treat the rest of the pool one way. We need to get that right, and then the ledge. Just we need to understand that, and it depends on the pool model. Not all models kind of behave the same way. But most ledges, just right off the mold, just because of gravity, they might be, sagging as much as perhaps an inch, inch and a half. So we need to account for that when we're leveling the pool and understand that we're going to level that ledge. It's just going to come after there's at least 12 inches of water in the shallow end so that we don't lift the pool shell.
Right. And so to level the ledge, we're going to just use a simple bottle jack and a wood block. And we're going to pick a point. How would you best describe that, picking that point? So we want to be central on the tanning ledge.
Yeah. So we want to, when we lift the ledge with the jack, we want this all to happen, both the pier that we're going to describe and that supports the ledge and the jack needs to be on the outside where that wall floor radius meets up. And that's structurally the strongest point of that. We do not want to put the piers or the jacks in the center of the ledge because it's just going to heave that floor up.
Right. And so here's an example of a pier. We looked at our graphic department and said, hey, can you draw this up for us real quick? So they reversed it. The solid block really should be on the bottom, or sometimes you need a solid on the bottom and then an additional one on top to make up whatever distance you need.
Yeah, it just depends on pretty basic, simple. Right? Very, very, very basic. But you want a solid block on the bottom so that if it's an open cell block, obviously there's the stone or whatever could kind of squish up in there and you could have some settlement.
Yep.
And there's shingles on top. Any non-biodegradable shim will work, and that allows you to really fine tune the level, get it just perfect.
Yep. And so here's a few photos from a recent job site. You can see the bottle jack, the wood block, and Franklin. It's the hand you see there, and you'll see him in a couple photos coming up. One of our install leaders. So he's jacking the pool up. We're going to pick it up about an inch and set the pier in place. And you can't see in this photo, but there's a solid block under that 8-inch block there. And set the pier in place, drop the pool back down, and then there's another step here. This goes back to not leaving a hollow void anywhere. So again, we want that homeowner to feel like they're walking on solid ground when they step onto that tanning ledge.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the piers, the installers have been using the piers for years. I mean, I remember when we went back to Trilogy U years and years ago, we, that's how they taught to really support any ledges that stick out like that. And which is great. We always used to hand pack with stone. And then the idea here with this void fill, we just bring in a ready mix concrete truck. And it's, we started using flowable fill, which is basically sand and water and a little bit of cement. And we switched to what's called block grout, the same thing you would order to fill the open cells of like a block wall. And it's a much higher cement ratio. We found that the flowable fill it was like glorified sand. We walk on it, it leaves a footprint. It just wasn't solid enough for us. So we switched to the block grout and it sets up hard like concrete.
Yeah. So here's another image. Again, pouring this in tight to the tanning ledge, getting it up under there. And then at times we're going to have to work the material to make sure it gets in there to get the bubbles out. You might have to bounce on the edge of the tanning ledge a bit just to work those bubbles out. What's the best recommendation there?
Yeah. I mean, so the best thing really is to have the pool full of water or pretty close to being full of water. That's going to provide weight. That's going to prevent that fill material from heaving that floor, which it will do if you just start pumping a bunch of grout in there. It's going to lift that floor, in which case you can get in the pool and you can jump on that and it will displace it and force that material back out to the sides. But it's also very easy and that might not always happen. We've had it happen and we were lucky enough to get that out of there, but it's important to fill the pool with water first, and that'll prevent that from happening.
Which you can see in the image here. The tanning ledge has water, a couple inches of water in it.
Yeah, in an ideal setting, just to be forthright, a little more water than that is probably desirable. But in this particular pool, this ledge is not a huge ledge. It's our C35, so the chances of that floor heaving up is pretty slim.
Yeah. So let's talk about placement of the piers and. Go ahead, Jason. I got a call.
Yeah. So about every 8 feet or so. So in this case, this is the shallow end of our C series pool. One pier in the center of that ledge is fine. We've got our another example of a rectangular pool is the D series. And so this pool is, we have 15 wide and 16 wide versions. So you'd want to have 2 piers along there. Again, roughly 8 feet apart between those. So you'd have maybe 3 or 4 feet on the ends, and just enough to support that ledge and make sure that you don't have any areas that are sagging.
Yeah. So let's talk about the advantages of the River Pools Way installation in terms of tanning ledge install. We've got less time to dig, again, because we're going to leave as much earth in place as possible. And we've also got, which you can see right there, again, back to that same image, just leaving as much earth in place as possible to support that tanning ledge. So less time digging, which, as a result, there's less dirt to haul out, less dirt to move around the property and haul away. Less time packing stone because, again, we want to keep the earth tight to the tanning ledge so we're not spending all of our time packing that void with a lot of stone. These guys are trying to quietly walk around and get me a cough drop, which I greatly appreciate. My children are so kind to pass along all their beans and disease to me.
Yeah, so and let's just throw this out there too, that this is just one way to do this. There's other alternatives. Our good friends at Thursday Pools have designed the backfill eliminator for tanning ledge pools, which is pretty remarkable. This is just basically another way of doing it that we found have this set of advantages. Again, in terms of time, less time digging, less dirt to move, less time packing the stone.
Yeah. Let's look at the cost side of things. What the cost, the makeup of the block, the grout, the stone saved, and you're only a couple $100 in.
Yeah, I mean, really, we're talking about a few pieces of cement block. Grout is the biggest expense. We usually use around 4 to 5 yards of material. That is, in using that material, there's a certain amount of stone we're not using. Roughly, about 7 to 8 tons of stone. So, I mean, total cost to do this, if you net out the stone, you're really looking at about, less than $400. And in terms of time, we've got, 1.5 to 2 hours total between setting the piers and grouting. And certainly that is a time savings when you compare it to the alternative, which is getting under there and just packing those steps by hand.
Yeah, we've got a question coming in that we are going to get to in just a second. But really, the end result of this whole thing is getting a better product. Again, a better end product. We want the customer to feel like they're walking on solid ground. We want them to feel confident with what they've purchased. And of course, we want to put this thing in the ground in such a way that we're not going to have to return to make any repairs or adjustments after the fact.
Right.
Okay.
Can you bring the Q&A back up?
Yeah.
There.
Oh, sorry. I dismissed the question inadvertently. See, there it is. Got it. So we're running like 3 screens to manage this thing on our first webinar. So of course there would be glitches.
Well, we're having fun. Hopefully you guys are having fun.
Yeah, it looks like we've got a good crowd. 26 are here with us today so far. So
all right.
Yeah.
Again, we've got these questions online. Please, at any time, just fire off a question. Doesn't necessarily have to be tanning ledge related. Love to hear any questions that you have.
Yeah. So let's continue on. Let's talk about the features, accessories that folks typically like to add on to the tanning ledges. And first talk about bubblers. I'm gonna let Jason lead this section here.
Yeah. So our typical bubbler setup, we're just using a typical return fitting. So drill the hole and install just like another any return fitting. You notice silicone adhesive. This is the I think we use the CMP fiberglass pool return fitting. You can see right around the fitting, we've removed the honeycomb core material. We put a core material on the entire surface of all the ledges and benches and steps. And you need to remove that to get down to the original layer of pool shell. And then you can go ahead and install that fitting.
Okay. You want to see what that question is, Jason?
Yeah, absolutely. So the question is, do you have to worry about the grout infiltrating your clean stone backfill this blocking groundwater movement around the pool?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say when we do this, we don't see that we get a lot of penetration of the grout into the stone. Really, it just kind of, we're pouring it. Obviously, it's flowable, but it doesn't saturate the stone and it doesn't really penetrate in there. So no, we don't really have a concern about that. And we're not pouring the grout down to rare earth either. So we do have a bed of stone, so their water is able to migrate around, under the pool.
Yeah. All right, let's just continuing on with the bubbler installation process.
So yeah, just the typical return fitting, install here, insert an 1.5-inch pipe, cut it off, and then go ahead and run your plumbing lines underneath.
And there you can see 2 bubblers were installed there, and they've stubbed out the plumbing line.
Yeah, we really are fans of pre-plumbing our fiberglass pools because it allows us to just really plumbing above ground allows us to visually inspect. Better inspection is better, an easier process, less margin for error, and we were able to keep everything pretty tight to the pool so that we don't have to worry about any damage to the plumbing.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to lighting. And again, this is more about position of those lights, not so much how to install the niche, but how to properly light the pool. And the trick to the game is to illuminate the water. So we've got a couple photos.
Yeah, this is a light niche install. We're using the Pentair Glow Bright lights. And, frankly, we just had a bit of a learning curve here. At first we were not, we kind of figured, hey, we got lights in the pool. Some of that light is going to spill up onto that tanning ledge. It's just not the case. You have to be very deliberate about this and strategically place a light so that you get light on that ledge.
So this is what we don't want.
Yeah.
We don't want situations where that tanning ledge is almost pitch black. And so, imagine walking out onto your patio, to your deck, to your pool, and not really being able to really see that tanning ledge. It kind of hides the feature at night.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it could be worse, right? I mean, there's worse things than, having a little bit of a shadow on a tanning ledge. But, all things being equal, let's do our due diligence. And luckily for us, this is in our pool park here. So we got to learn this one on our own dime, so to speak.
Right.
But yeah, so let's look at how you might design the light layout on a tanning ledge pool.
So the house is on the left. You'd walk out of the house onto the tanning ledge on this one. And so light position number 1 would be right off the tanning ledge. And so this is going to catch the ledge. It's going to head on out into the water, obviously, leave a nice little pattern.
Yeah. And let me throw this out there also that Pentair makes they make a fitting that snaps onto the top of the light, that it's a diffuser. And because our pools and all fiberglass pools, the side walls are on an angle, it pitches the light upward. So if you have a very shallow light, like on a shelf like this, and it's pitched upward, it can kind of glare at you. So they make a light diffuser, which is just basically a little cap that snaps on the top, and it just cuts down the top half of that light. Yeah, so it's not shining up. So you can get those from Pentair.
Yeah. And then in general, we just want to make sure that light position is not directed back towards the house or towards the path you would walk up to the pool, because it can create, significant glare and just be undesirable to look at.
We want to look at illuminated water. We don't want to look into a light bulb.
Yeah.
And the model we're looking at here is a 40-foot, the C40. And again, you could make an argument for 6 different light layouts here. But there's the only real wrong way to do this is to not include enough lights, to not light the tanning shelf, or to have lights that are glaring right at the house. And so typically on a 40-foot pool with a ledge, we would use somewhere between 3 and 4 lights.
Yep. And let's talk about a rectangular pool, straight edge pool. Again, the house is right off of the tanning ledge.
Yeah, so basically this is pretty straightforward. We want to light from one side and light, halfway through the tanning ledge, and then 2 lights distributed through the body of the pool.
Yeah. We've got another question coming in here. We'll get to that in just a second. But this is the end goal here. This is an example of one we got right. And again, the walkout position or from the house is over here from the left. So walking out to the pool, and this water is just very well illuminated. Actually, from the deck, you can see the tanning ledge pretty easily. And we love going back to this photo.
Yeah, great landscape lighting too, right?
Great landscape lighting. Oh man.
Yeah, beautiful job.
Yeah. All right, what's the question we got? Amy's
We're teeing that up right now.
teeing it up right now. The system is because the Q&A actually comes up on the large screen across the room. I can't see it. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older.
Or it's maybe
I'll just blame it on the TV.
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
So we actually have Amy in the office who is texting us the questions as they come in on Jason's phone. We have like a million pieces of technology in here just to do something pretty simple.
Yeah, this is awesome.
What you got?
So question, when installing wall fittings, do you have to remove core material at every penetration, or is this core material only at steps and ledges? Great question.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we do remove the core material on the return fittings on the sidewalls, like on our pools and a lot of the fiberglass pools out there, there's ribs on the side, going vertically. And yes, we like to remove those.
Mm-hmm. We want to get that fitting flush to the main laminate schedule.
It gives you basically more thread to bite on when you install your fitting. You have more thread.
Yep. Okay. All right. Let's see if we can get the slideshow, the computer to catch up with me again. All right. So, in the fiberglass pool industry, all manufacturers are producing pool models with tanning ledges now. These are just a few examples of what we're offering, but you can find fiberglass pools with integrated tanning ledges from all the manufacturers.
Certainly most.
Yeah, certainly most. And so we have a series of rectangular pools. We have a couple freeform models. A lot of the images that you saw previously in the slideshow were of the C40, which is not a very large tanning ledge, certainly compared to our D series. And then this is our newest freeform pool with the tanning ledge, the I series. We also saw an image of the L36, which is a pretty large tanning ledge as well. And then, of course, you can expect to have add-on ledges available from manufacturers as well. So they're out there. They're desirable. Consumers are looking for them. They enjoy playing on them and relaxing on them. And so we wanted to share our knowledge with you today about installing a fiberglass pool with a tanning ledge. So anything more to add?
Yeah, not particularly. We really hope this was helpful. Again, this is going to be a monthly event that we're going to do this every first Wednesday at 11 o'clock Eastern time. And we're going to be mixing it up. There's going to be an install related topic, then there'll be a sales topic, marketing, and we're going to rotate through those based on demand. And next month our topic is going to be discussing how to dominate with fiberglass in a market that's really saturated with vinyl or concrete pools. So really a sales related topic for next month. And man, Christian, it's been great, man.
So first Wednesday of every month.
Yeah, first Wednesday of every month.
11 a.m.
11 a.m. Eastern time.
Yep. There's a couple, it looks like maybe folks are trying to chat. And the way we're set up here, if you could throw your questions to the Q&A. I just see that there's a couple folks trying to chat. We don't have that pane open at the moment. I can't get it open now that we're going. So if you could throw your questions to the Q&A section, that'd be good. So we also mentioned that we're going to be starting a fiberglass pool builders group on Facebook, which I mentioned up at the top. This is very early stages of putting the group together. It's been formed, put a couple of images on it, but really need to begin building out the content for that. So if you search it on Facebook, certainly request to be a part of it. And we're going to grow this thing from scratch. And the idea, again, really is to share experience, knowledge.
Yeah, let's say you're out on a job site
Q&A
and
platform.
What has led us to do a lot of what we're doing, specifically these webinars, this Facebook group, is the fact that we're fielding phone calls all the time. And our biggest source of questions has been with tanning ledges. So that's where we started. But I receive phone calls on a daily basis from builders in the field. They hit groundwater. They've had this problem, that problem, and these are questions that we all have. or that we all have had to deal with in the past. So the idea behind the Facebook group is really to just ask questions real time when you're on the job, or if something's eating at you and you just are wondering, how would you guys do this? Throw it out there. We want this to build into a great forum where we can all openly feel free to be able to share our questions and ideas with each other, and just really create a really helpful environment.
Yeah. So let me see if I can get into the chat pane real quickly. Can you see that, Amy? A couple chat questions up there. Okay, good. So we really appreciate you guys attending. Again, first Wednesday of every month, 11 a.m. We share the next topic. Hit up the Facebook group, which we'll begin to build out here in the next coming days and weeks. And Jason?
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, Christian, where would they direct those questions about?
They can email me, just respond to the invitation or any of the emails you got pertaining to this webinar, and we can get a response to you. And we'll send out emails with info for the next webinar in a couple of weeks, and set you guys up with reminders and everything else. So,
all right,
appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks, man. I gotta figure out how to end the show.